can use Inkscape's tiled clone feature to create repeating patterns. Click Edit, Clone, Create Tiled Clones to open up the Create Tiled Clones dialog box. Tiled clones use symmetries. Each symmetry assumes a shape. This video covers symmetries that assume a rectangle. Tiling is defined as covering a surface with the same shape. In practice, you will not always cover the surface and will not always use the prescribed shape. Before we get started, I want to illustrate a few things so that you understand the terms I use. I'm going to start by activating my selector tool by clicking on it, and then I'm going to select this tile. Whenever you activate the selector tool, these options become available to you. This option will rotate the object 90 degrees clockwise. This option will flip the object horizontally, and this option will flip the object vertically. Let me demonstrate. So this tile is selected, and I want to flip it horizontally. So I click here, and the tile has been flipped. That's the end result. I'm going to click this tile, and then I'm going to flip it vertically. Well, the tile has been flipped, and that's the result. I'm going to select this tile, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. That's the result. And then I'm going to select this tile and rotate it 180 degrees. And that's the result. So as I use these terms, flip horizontal, flip vertical, rotate 90 degrees, rotate 180 degrees, these are the results I'm talking about. Alrighty. So when we come over here to our Create Tiles dialog box, we have all of these symmetries. I'm going to start with simple translation. When you have a simple translation, Inkscape creates a set of columns and rows, and every tile is positioned exactly the same way. So for this one, I'm going to use 3 rows, and then I'm going to come over here and 3 columns. I'm going to click the reset button. I click that because if I had in a previous session made a change to any of these tabs, clicking the reset button would set these tabs back to their defaults. I'm going to click this tile, and then I'm going to click create, see what happens. So we get just what I described. We have 3 rows, 3 columns, and every tile is positioned exactly the same way. I'm going to come down here and take a look at this. If we select P2, 180 degree rotation, and our first tile is positioned this way, Inkscape will rotate the second tile 180 degrees and then repeat that pattern across columns and rows. Let's give it a try. So I'm going to select this tile. I want 3 rows and 6 columns. I'll click create, and that's what happened. So this tile, this is the original position of our tile. This one is rotated 180 degrees. Original position, rotated 180 degrees, original position rotated 180 degrees, and the same thing for the next row, and the same thing for the next row. Next, I'm going to come over here, and we're going to try reflection. When we use the reflection symmetry, if our original tile is positioned this way, the next tile will be flipped horizontally, and that pattern will be repeated across the columns and down the rows. Let's take a look. So I've selected reflection here. I want 3 rows and 6 columns. Click Create. And so our first tile, that's our original position. This one is flipped horizontally. By the way, I didn't mention, this is commonly referred to as a mirror image. This one is straight up and down. This one is flipped horizontally. And the next row repeats the same pattern. Okay, so we'll try the next option, which is glide reflection. And in a glide reflection, the first tile, if this is the position of the first tile, it's flipped horizontally and then moved underneath the original tile. If we start out in this position, the same thing happens. It's flipped horizontally and then moved underneath the original tile. So let's give that a try. This is my original tile. I'm going to create 4 rows and 6 columns. I'll click Create, and that's what happened. So everything on the first row is in the same position as the original tile. Everything on the second row has been flipped horizontally and placed on the second row, and then the next row is the same as the first, and the next row is the same as the second. If we start out with our tile in this position and do the same thing, this is the result we get. Okay. Our next option is CM, reflection plus glide reflection. See what happens there. So we start out with our first tile in this position, and our second tile is a reflection of that. So it's been flipped horizontally. Then on our second row, the tile is flipped horizontally and moved down. That's our glide reflection. So this also, it's flipped horizontally and then placed on the second row. So let's take a look at that. You can see that's exactly what happens. The first one, its original position. This is flipped horizontally, original position, flipped horizontally. This one becomes a glide reflection. It's flipped horizontally and then moved below, flipped horizontally and moved below. And that pattern is repeated across this row. The original pattern is from the first row is repeated here, and then the pattern from the second row is repeated here. Our next pattern is called reflection reflection. So what's happening here is this is our original position. This tile is flipped horizontally. That's what we're calling a reflection. And then this tile, when compared to this one down here, it's flipped vertically. I call that a vertical reflection. So this is a reflection of this, flipped horizontally. This is a reflection of this. This one is flipped vertically. And so this one, well, no, this one is a reflection of this one, and this one is a reflection of this one. This one is a reflection of this one is a reflection of this one, and it's flipped vertically. So let's take a look at that. So the first two, that's repeated across, and then on our second row we have the same thing we have on our second row here. That pattern is repeated across. Then we have our first row again here, and our second row again here. Okay, so our next option is reflection 180-degree rotation. Okay, so this is the position we start in. This tile is rotated 180 degrees. Then this one is flipped vertically, so it's a reflection of this one, and the same, this one here is a reflection of this one. So let's give that a try. And you can see this pattern is repeated across the row, and this pattern is repeated across this row, and then our original pattern, and then our second row is repeated again. Alrighty, let's take a look of our next pattern. It's called glide reflection plus 180-degree rotation. Okay, so this is our original position. This is flipped vertically. This one is a 180-degree rotation of the one above, and this one is a 180-degree rotation of the one above. Let's see what happens here. This time I'm going to use 6 rows and 6 columns. I'll click create, and we can see that pattern repeats itself. Okay, so here's our next one. This one's a little bit tricky. It's called the CMM reflection 180-degree rotation. So let's see what happens here. This is our original position. This one is flipped horizontally, and then our second row takes these two and flips them vertically. So this is actually a reflection of this, and this row is a reflection of the row above it. Then so that's taking up 2 rows. Then for the next 2 rows. Each one of these blocks is flipped horizontally. This one is flipped horizontally, shown here. This one is flipped horizontally. This one corresponds to this one right here. It's flipped horizontally. And this one corresponds to this one right here, and it's flipped horizontally. So let's take a look. So we see this pattern covers these 4 blocks, repeated here and repeated here. This pattern, these 4 blocks, repeated here and repeated here. We'll try our next one. It's called P4, 90-degree rotation. So here's our original tile. This is a 90-degree rotation of that. This one is a 90-degree rotation of this one, and this one is a 90-degree rotation of this one. So we'll create that, and we can see it repeats. 90 degree, 90 degree, 90 degree, rotate 90 degree, 90 degree, 90 degree, rotate 90 degree, 90 degree, 90 degree, and the same thing here. Alrighty, so here's our last one. It's called P4G, and 90-degree rotation, 90-degree reflection. So this is just like the one above it. We start here. This is a 90-degree rotation of this one. This is a 90-degree rotation of this one. This is a 90-degree rotation of this one. And then these blocks, this set of 4 blocks, flipped horizontally. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Oh my, I'm going to remove this. One of the things you should know about this, these blocks are created in sets of 4. So I need to set this to get a good look at this. This to 6, and this to a multiple of 4. And a multiple of 4 is 8. And I don't really want this to be 6. I think 2 will be fine. We'll try that out. Yeah. So here's what happens if I make this 12. We get 4 more over here. And if I make this 3, we get another set of 2 rows down here. And I think I'm going to make this one 16. Create. I'm going to select the original clone so that I can remove these and recreate. So yeah, there we have it. So this is our first set of 4, and then that set is flipped horizontally, and we get this. Start over with that pattern again, flip it horizontally, and looks like our second row starts with the horizontal flip. Our first row looks like our original, and that pattern continues. So that's it for our symmetries that use a rectangle as a base.